but has a separate business unit where that milk is processed in addition to purchasing from other establishments. This is where all the concentrates are stored. We call these cells, where we have a cell for each raw material. In conclusion, this establishment has dry cows, prepartum cows, and production cows. Well, as I mentioned earlier, the base of the diet is corn silage, and the second forage that occupies the most proportion in the diet is alfalfa. This area is a major producer of alfalfa, and we use it in two ways. One way is by cutting the alfalfa, letting it air dry, drying it until it reaches around 15% moisture, and then collecting it with a machine that produces these mega bales. The peculiarity of this forage is that the same machine makes a pre-cut of about 7 centimeters. The other way to reserve alfalfa is through silage, where the plant is cut, given a short pre-drying, to approximately 35%, 38% to 40% dry matter, and then collected with a chopper, the same one used for chopping corn silage, and stored in the bag as such. What is purchased within this establishment is everything that is concentrated, especially protein, and the corn grain is produced and used on site. All the protein part that makes up the diet is purchased from certain local suppliers, specifically soybean meal and cottonseed, which are two ingredients, with cottonseed used as a supplement to maintain or increase the solids content in the milk composition. Remember that this establishment produces milk here and does not market it like most others, but has a separate business unit where that milk is processed in addition to purchasing from other establishments. This is where all the concentrates are stored. We call these cells, where we have a cell for each raw material. What we have back here is soybean meal, which is a protein source we are using for the production cows. Another protein source we use is protected soybean meal, which is used only for high production cows, all of which are in the barn. Here in this cell, we store soybean meal. In another cell, we have ground corn. In another, cottonseed, and there is a third cell for making a premix. What is a premix? A premix is based on the concentration needed for each diet, mixing corn, cottonseed, and soybean meal, and used for all categories. A premix is made in advance, stored in a cell, and then the pre-made premix is loaded directly. It's not that an ingredient is loaded as needed. No, a premix is made and used in a fixed dose for most herds. And then, for the herds inside the barn, protected soybean meal is added. Well, El Moncho Farm, dedicated solely to dairy farming, has around 480 hectares where all the forage, such as corn silage, silage, and alfalfa hay is produced. Additionally, all the corn consumed by the dairy is produced on this land. As mentioned earlier, this dairy annually fluctuates between 420, 430, 450 cows, depending on the time of year, and between 13 and 15,000 liters of milk daily, depending on the number of cows. The peculiarity of this establishment is that it only produces milk here. This establishment does not have rearing facilities. Once the cow calves, the calf is weaned and sent to another facility for rearing. Once the heifer is about to calve, it is brought here and goes through the prepartum period at this establishment. In conclusion, this establishment has dry cows, prepartum cows, and production cows. Currently, we are doing 2 milkings a day, starting around 3 a.m. and the second milking at 3 p.m.
You mentioned that the milk production is not sold to the dairy. How does that work?
This particular company has 2 productive units. One is the dairy farm for milk production, and the other is an economic unit for milk processing. The second economic unit processes all the milk produced here, as well as milk purchased from other producers in the area. This establishment also has another milk production facility with a slightly different system. It is a more pasture-based, semi-pasture system with a partially mixed diet where the cow spends half the day consuming the TMR in a dry lot system and the other half in a pasture system. As I mentioned earlier, in Argentina, We are migrating from that type of system to these more intensive systems.
Well, I think that's all. I hope you liked this video. Subscribe to the channel, give it a like, and see you next time.